Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Your Next Business Bestie. This week, I'm welcoming my new friend, Anna, to the show. Hi, Anna.
Hi, Jen. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, Anna and I have a lot of things that kind of cross over, and the biggest being this episode will be live on December 3rd. My birthday is this weekend, December 8th, and then Anna's birthday is right after that, December 10th. So it's very timely that we're recording this in time to go live just before our birthdays. But Anna, why don't you tell everybody? I know you do a lot of things, but give everyone the Reader's Digest version of what Anna does.
Oh my gosh, I love Reader's Digest. My grandparents always used to have it. That just really brought me back right there. Thank you. Hi everyone. I'm Anna Cantwell and I do a lot of things because I love a lot of things. So I am a spiritual life and business coach. And in all of that, I primarily work with women and spiritual entrepreneurs. So people who are doing something with a really deep purpose, healers, coaches, teachers, all that good stuff. Or just the mystical, people who are interested in the mystical and want to continue to grow in that way. I'm also the author of the Animal Guides Oracle Card Deck and the founder of Wild Plenty Flower Remedies. So those are my two other businesses. And if that wasn't enough, I also make music. I'm a performing and recording artist, and I make high vibe music, affirmation music. Yeah, just good vibes, pop music for people to elevate. And if that, yeah, I'm like, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's pretty much it. That's all of these amazing things, but that's it. That's it. It's funny because I
That's
was
all.
just having a conversation yesterday with somebody else I met through Diana's World about multifaceted. And mine is all under one umbrella of my business, but like I do strategy sessions and I do a little bit of coaching and social media management and websites and all of the things. And I think there's a common misconception that like you have to niche down in your business in order to be successful. And I don't think that's the case. I think it's the intent behind what it is that you're doing. And for me and for you, the intent is all of these things that we love that we want to bring to the world. But how did which one of these has been around the longest in your world, and how did you get started?
Yeah. So coaching has been around the longest. And to speak to the niche, I have never been a fan of like micro niches. Like I'm an ADHD coach for like seven-figure entrepreneurs, like super, super specific. There's nothing at all wrong with that. And I celebrate those who can have one clear focus. And that's just not me. But the through line is the spiritual pathway. And so, many years ago, I was an English teacher. And I always joke that English teachers are kind of like life coaches,
Mhm.
anyways. Everyone had an English teacher who they would like go sit in their classroom during lunch and hang out and talk about life and get advice. And so, my entryway into the world of education also included positive psychology. And in positive psychology, I wrote a thesis on optimism and how people who practice optimism intentionally have all these amazing outcomes, like they're healthier and they're better leaders and they make more money. And not that we need research studies to tell us these things, like gratitude makes you happier or all of that good, positive psych stuff. But it really, really stuck with me, especially because just before I became a teacher when I was still in college, I was actually a coach. I was an academic coach and a writing coach. So I had the coaching and teaching approach and already instilled in me. And so later on, when I quit teaching high school, because it was just a hot mess and made me sick, and I was severely underpaid and overworked, as many amazing teachers are. I thought, there's got to be a better way for me to impact people, one that doesn't make me ill in the process
Yeah.
because, the hard-earned lesson that hopefully most of us by now know, you cannot pour from an empty cup. I was doing a lot of that. And funny enough, two teachers that I knew were teaching yoga at my school, and they were teaching kids. I don't know if you've heard of this book, The Four Agreements. Really
Yep, absolutely.
amazing, like such a good foundational spiritual text.
Mm.
It's super short if anyone's looking for like a bite-sized chunk. And she introduced me to these folks who did yoga teacher training for school teachers. So I met these people, I took this yoga teacher training, and I was like, we need to have a big life change here, Anna. I just saw the trajectory that I was going
Mm.
on, and I knew I was like, this cannot be like what I do forever. So I moved to LA. I graduated from my yoga teacher training. I picked up a couple of odd jobs. I started teaching yoga. Yoga led to meditation. Meditation led to hypnotherapy and more training and coaching. And all of a sudden, it was like, gotta catch them all, certifications, and my spiritual path changing so much, and so many amazing things falling into place for me that it just, yeah, all of a sudden my coaching business was born. And it just grew really organically. It grew very naturally to me through a lot of referrals. And I didn't know a lot about online business. I was kind of just shooting in the dark, and seeing what works. And at the time, I was also teaching, I was doing like corporate meditations and some corporate coaching, and I was still teaching yoga in a studio, but I was also had one-to-one clients and programs. And then everyone's favorite time, COVID happened. So everything closed down, and I lost like half of my income from in-person stuff. And I was like, cool, let's just double down and let's take all of that money that we lost, that we don't have anymore, and put it into a mastermind to learn online business, which,
Sounds
as
about
one
right.
as one
Yeah.
does, which turned out to be an amazing decision for me. And once I learned a lot of those foundational online business techniques, it just clicked because I had that strong background in teaching and coaching, and so I knew how to deliver an amazing product. I knew how to make a great curriculum and structure a program. Um, you know, I always say once you teach 36 ninth graders Lord of the Flies in a 2 hour block after lunch, like, oh my God, someone's like paying me to teach them something and they're excited to be here and I can teach anything I want. It's yeah, that's it makes teaching anything easy. So yeah, that was kind of how my coaching business evolved. And I'm so grateful that, 7 years later, I'm still in the thick of coaching and loving it so much. But yeah, there were just a few things that got added along the way.
Yeah, I was an English major and considered teaching, but decided very quickly that was not for me. And a shout out to the teachers out there. Like, you deserve
Bless.
so much more. I cannot even imagine. One of my best friends teaches, I think she's teaching first grade right now, but she's been teaching for, it's got to be pushing 10 years. And I don't know how she's done it. I really don't. So a definite shout out to any teachers that are listening. But talk more about what coaching with Anna looks like. Who are you working with? What does your program look like? How are you helping people? Yeah, give us a little more on coaching.
Yeah, for sure. So I like to share about my coaching through these lenses that I love, like human design and astrology. So, for my human design folks out there, I'm a manifester. And manifestors, we have a very special skill, and that is catalyzing things, getting things going. I love to work with people when they're starting a new project, they need new ideas, new energy, and they need maybe sometimes like a little bit of a fire under their ass. I feel like the manifester is the fire starter
Yeah.
vibe. And it's, you know, what's hilarious about that is before I knew anything about human design, my very, very, very first online course that I made was called Firestarter.
Oh,
And I
that's
made
so
it in like
funny.
early 2018. I'd never heard of human design at all. And I didn't know anything about being a manifester or that were these catalysts and energy. I just thought that was so funny.
That's really fun. I'm a reflector for the record. I am a reflector. Yeah.
Girl, so exciting. Oh, thank you for your service to the world.
Like human design is such an interesting. I love astrology. I love Enneagram and Strength Finders and all of the more masculine personality profiling. But human design, when I started diving into it and I was told I was a reflector, I felt so seen. Like, and it sounds like it was similar for you with being a manifester, that I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, oh shit, like this is who I am. This is what I bring to the world. This is what the world brings to me. I have a chameleon tattooed on the inside of my arm as part of my sleeve. And it was unintentional because I really still didn't know a lot about it. But reflectors, for those of you listening that might not know a lot about human design, we're the chameleons of the world. We pull in other people's energies, but it can also be very difficult to shed other people's energies. And my mom growing up always said, you know, if Jen doesn't like someone or gets a bad vibe about someone, there's something there. And that's a very reflector thing. But I also am on a personal mission to meet other reflectors because I have not met a single additional reflector in person. I've met some online and through Diana's community, but we're less than 1% of the population. So we're a rarity. But keep going.
Definitely. One of my best friends is a reflector, and I have a client who is a reflector as well.
So
And
cool.
I always tell them like the environment is everything. And that's why I'm so excited for you and moving and getting more space
Yes.
because the environment is so, so crucial.
Yes.
Anyways, I'm like, where were we? So yeah, I'm a Sagittarius sun. Jen and I are both. Our birthdays are right around the corner. And Sagittarius, of course, wants to aim high, wants to reach for the stars. We're the archer, but also there's this energy of being on the spiritual journey and wanting to grow as a human. And so I say spiritual life and business coaching because that's the simplest way that I've found to describe it. But anyone that I work with, if you're a business owner or not, we are working on all areas of your life at all times because they're all interconnected. And so sometimes there might be something in your love life that's occurring, and we need to shift, how you're communicating or boundaries with someone. And that's actually going to make a huge impact on your next launch for your business. And that's just a simple example, but I really love to work with the whole person. My background in, yoga and more of the wellness side of things, I definitely geek out on some like biohacking. I'm like in a single call, we can like pull up your human design chart, we can talk about your cycle, and we can like plan your next launch. We can do all of those
That's
things.
amazing.
Yeah. And I think this will give a little more if we have any astrology nerds out there. My moon is Gemini, and Gemini is such a teacher, loves to learn. I'm like a little spiritual encyclopedia, and I just love to empower people with knowledge that helps them learn, heal, grow, and ultimately, this is my ultimate goal for everyone is really create from an empowered place a life that you're super obsessed with, that's perfect for you. And so I don't have a really rigid like framework that I use because it's so unique to everyone. How I coach my reflectors is totally different than how I coach my manifesting generators. So a lot of times I start off with an offering that I have called a soul blueprint, which is where you make this beautiful PDF of your astrology, your natal chart, your human design, your gene keys, and your numerology. And then I cross reference all of them and find all of the kind of key takeaways and places where they intersect so that we can come up with a really tailored way of working, with each of my clients unique to them, how they communicate, how they are in relationships, business. Like I said, all of it gets covered. Purpose, your spiritual gifts, that kind of thing. And then in programs, I have a little bit more, of course, framework and structure. My main programs, one has to do with money, and money is big in my gene keys. My life's work is a gene key that's all about marketing. It's literally like learn how to market something that you love and do it in a really aligned way, and you're in your life's purpose. And
Interesting.
then I know, so unique. And then, because Gene Keys is like, I know, Gene Keys is getting into the obscure, into the
Yeah.
esoteric, but it's so freaking cool. And then, my Gene Key that's my evolution is one that's all about money. And how I grow is I reach new financial levels and heal my relationship with money and help other people heal their relationship with money. So I think
Amazing.
I just saw a lot of spiritual entrepreneurs struggling with money and being like, I don't need money, like I'm a saint, or like I shouldn't charge for this, like everything I should do should just be free. And I'm like, no, like please don't do
Yeah.
that. So coming from a wounded place. So I have a course called Abundance Mindset Mastery, and I love to help people with all of the energetic and practical stuff with money. And then I have a 6 month program for women. It's a small group coaching program called Soul Shine. And that's where we really dig into the super spiritual transmutation, shadow work, core values and core limiting beliefs and manifestation and all of those principles that I love to teach.
And your other courses, are those ongoing? Are they evergreen where people can plug into them, or how do those other courses function?
Yep. So Soulshine is live and
Okay.
Abundance Mindset Mastery is evergreen.
Okay.
So a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I have a couple of other, smaller offerings. I have like a hypnosis, evergreen for wealth consciousness called Prosperity Portal as well, bringing the hypnotherapy in because, ooh, that subconscious shit is so deep. But yeah, there's a little something for everyone, I always say, in the product suite.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's move into one of the other facets of all things Anna, and I'll let you pick which one. We could talk about music, we could talk about the card deck, we could talk about the florals.
Oh my gosh. Let's do cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you had told me like years and years ago that I would have my own Oracle card deck, I would have been like, what's an Oracle card deck? Like,
Yeah.
or I would have been like, that's from the devil. It's, could go one of two ways. But,
Hmm.
when I was a really little kid, their spirits would communicate to me, and I never knew what was happening until later when I was kind of on more of my spiritual path and I started to learn about animal guides or spirit animals. They go by, a couple of different names, and how the spirits of animals can visit you.
Yeah.
So I always tell people it's less like, you know, pet psychic or Dr. Doolittle who's like, let me talk to your cat and see why they're pissed off at you.
Yeah.
And it's more like the energies of animals in the spirit realm come to me and share their wisdom. And then they sometimes very adamantly told me to share it. So someone had gifted me a deck. I feel like you're a deck gal.
Oh, I have, let's see, one tarot deck sitting on my desk and one, two, three, four oracle decks for me and an animal kids deck. And I have a whole box full of decks under my desk.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. To say
Just so
that
we're
I'm
clear.
a deck girl is, oh, there's two oracle or tarot decks sitting there actually. Yeah.
I
Hmm.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much. So, maybe you're familiar with the medicine cards, the animal medicine
Yes.
cards. They have the lightning bolt on the back. So, someone in LA, I think she worked in my yoga studio. Someone in LA gifted me those cards, and my mind was so blown. I think the first card that I pulled ever from the deck was the horse. And horse is very associated with Sagittarius. We love our freedom, feeling empowered, traveling. And so the horse, it was so much more detailed than that, but it just blew my fucking mind. And so
Yeah.
once that happened, it was like the the can had been opened. There's no Pandora's box of Anna connecting to animals spiritually, like cannot go back inside the box. So I started pulling those animal medicine cards every day. I started pulling them for anybody that would let me. I was strolling into Beverly Hills, like corporate office buildings with my fucking animal cards, being like, this is how we're gonna start our like very corporate meditation session today. And people
Yeah.
are like, all right. And I'm telling you, I got those bad boys into boardrooms, into the hands of people who would never have ever pulled any kind of card and were super freaked out by it. Um, yeah, it's amazing how the animals really speak. And I had never connected that deeply to tarot, but I always felt like animals were so approachable. People love animals. Like,
Hmm.
and you also feel the energy of like, you know, the feeling of a hawk, right? Or an ant, and you can kind of get the energy of what they might symbolize. And so yeah, I wanted to make a deck and I just started telling people I'm gonna have my own deck. I'm gonna make my own deck and just started saying it for years. And people who say like don't say your manifestations, you know what I mean, to a lot of people
Hmm.
before they've come to fruition. I don't completely agree with that. I
I
think
don't either.
sometimes you need to have something close to the vest or you need to nurture your
Yeah.
seed. But I don't know, especially like people with your defined throat center, you know, are manifesting generators and manifestors in human design. The voice is so powerful in general for anyone manifesting. And I think if you're with supportive people, I think that's where it gets tricky, is if you're around a lot of not supportive people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I think there's such power in voicing, especially projects like building a deck. Or for me, I finally came up, I'm going to write a book. I am in the process. I
Yay!
finally came up with my idea. It's nothing like I thought I would ever write. It's going to be a thriller, but it pulls in like aspects of magic and I'm so excited. But I have found I need to tell people about it because I know the right people, like you were saying,
Mhm.
will hold me accountable to it too. Of
Yes.
like, Jen, what's going on with your book? What's the timeline? Or have you thought about this character? Or and like you said, it has to be the right people and not, people that well, naysayers or whatever you want to call them, but I absolutely believe in the power. And it is funny, the animal decks, I pull from an animal deck for all of my yoga classes. I end every yoga class pulling from an animal deck and in every setting. And I live in a pretty conservative area in Colorado. And I was very nervous at first pulling from, and these people are at yoga, so that's a little bit of like a gateway,
Yeah.
but some are there for a workout. They're for yoga as a workout. And I was like, what, screw it. Like I felt the same way. When I started pulling cards, I felt like the universe was opening portals to me. So, yeah.
Mm. Yes, they are. They are portals. And something that I've been hearing a lot more lately with animal guides decks is after someone buys one, they're like, I'm having real life animals come to me in all of these
Yes.
crazy ways. And I just love that because it's so magical and like yeah, it's why I wanted to focus on animals. I've always had such a deep connection to nature and spirituality has always been so connected to nature for me. And so, yeah, it was one thing led to another. I'm doing a Kickstarter. I'm raising money to get the decks. I have one of my amazing dear friends and clients. Her name is Lissa. She did all of the incredible art. I wrote the book, and it just, yeah, it got birthed in such a beautiful way. And I love the Kickstarter vibe because it's so community oriented. And I just was so floored by, you know, people that I had coached years ago, showing up and saying, I remember when you first started talking about this, and look at you doing the thing. And yeah, and then since then, with animal guides, it's been such an incredible journey to see and just get messages like every week from people saying, I pulled this card, the craziest thing happened, or, I pulled a card for my friend who's like normally not into this stuff, but they had such a meaningful experience. And so it really it's about that for me. It's about connecting people to the spiritual world in a really accessible way. And then seeing how that creates these meaningful conversations and these moments of reflection. And that's why I love cards in general, but the animal guides are definitely a special one.
Yeah, I remember one morning I was waiting to drop my daughter off at school, and these boys were chasing a rabbit. And this poor rabbit is trying desperately to get away from these like 8, 9-year-old boys. And my daughter and I had a whole conversation about, how that wasn't kind, but we also talked about rabbits and their energy. And then that night at yoga, when I pulled the card at the end of my class, I pulled the rabbit spirit. And it's trippy. I mean, my retreat that I hosted in 2022, there were turkeys everywhere for some reason on the property. And then I pulled the turkey spirit, and vice versa. You'll pull a card and then see that animal everywhere. But you had a very cool idea. And well, first, when did your deck come out? When was it
Yes, so
released?
the Kickstarter was in late 2020, and as sometimes it happens, if anyone has a product-based business, and it was also during COVID, our decks got stuck in customs for like 7 months. Um, but yeah, we got them delivered like mid to late 2021. So yeah, and then we just got the reprint. So this is the second edition, a couple of upgrades. They're made in the USA. They have like non-toxic materials. We have like a family-owned printing company in Florida who prints them. And so yeah, these are like the new and improved
Love
decks.
that.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then you had the idea of pulling a card for the podcast today. And again, this episode's coming out early December, so we thought that we would do a card related to moving into the new year, the energy of coming into the new year.
Let's do it. All right, animal guides. I always recommend asking questions that start with what, the word what. When we get into the who and the why and the when, we get a little too into the 3D. And I just find they respond better to what. So, what animal is here to guide us in the year 2025 as a collective? Oh my gosh. So fun. The
Oh, it's beautiful. And
butterfly.
for those of you listening and not watching, I'll take a screenshot of the card that Anna just pulled for us all for 2025, and I will be sure to link to that in the show notes. But it is a beautiful butterfly card. And what does that card mean to you, Anna? I know like there's some, stereotypical meanings behind butterfly, but tell us about what the butterfly represents in your animal guides.
Yeah, so first of all, I think it's really cool. It's number five. And so I think it's fun
Mhm.
that it's for 2025. Five as a number has the frequency, of course, of change,
Yeah.
transformation. And so the butterfly is obviously really known for metamorphosis, right? But what people don't always know is that when a caterpillar goes into the cocoon and it's cocooning, it completely liquefies. Like it literally turns into goo. And so what I love about butterflies, it has all of the phases, right? And so some of us, it may still be a caterpillar year, and that's okay. Some of us, it may be a cocoon year. But I feel like the overarching energy is this, kind of spreading your wings and flying. But it's really the lightness that the butterfly moves with. And so it's going to be a lot of like shedding of old things, really letting go of past identities, setting boundaries so that we can retain our joy is going to be really important. And I always say the butterfly is like when we choose to grow with joy. feel like a lot of times, maybe we've been on the struggle bus and that's okay. However, I feel like it's if we accept that we are choosing a harder path, then other pathways can open for us. And that growth doesn't always have to come with so much pain and so much heaviness and so much struggle. I feel like this is a very Anna card because I'm really into like, let's make it playful, let's make it fun, even when we're doing like deep, intense work, right? Intense transformation and growth. Like we can still choose joy in that process. So for 2025, what I would say is prioritize joy. If you have a specific project, it's a good time to like get that moving and get it to come to fruition in 2025. Expect some bigger changes probably and some letting go of things, and just remember to laugh, to stay light on your feet. Don't get caught in the heaviness. This is a year that we can let go of the struggle bus and we don't have to ride that train anymore.
I love that. I love all of that. There's obviously a lot of things coming in 2025 that I think people have to approach with some playfulness and some lighthearted in order to keep ourselves sane in part of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For
Well,
sure. I think like I just feel like the butterfly is such a good reminder of just do your thing.
mm,
And I used to always have people tell me, life's not all rainbows and butterflies. And I'm like, I don't know about you, but I'm fucking surrounded by rainbows and butterflies. And also, rainbows come after rain and butterflies go in the cocoon. So don't come for me. I just feel like back to that optimism piece.
yeah.
Our brains are so hardwired for negativity to keep us safe that in this day and age where on the whole we have a level of safety that's generally much higher, that like we can really, it's okay to embrace and lean a little harder into the look on the brighter side of things, you
If
know?
someone's just getting started with Oracle cards and let's say they pick up your deck, what suggestions do you have for them in getting started on their Oracle deck
Totally.
journey?
Totally. Pick a card every day. Give yourself a few minutes. My cards have mantras, a full message, and a ritual. So if they have some kind of ritual, to whatever extent you can, see if you can do it in the moment. Um, and then if you're just getting started, I would say pull cards for other people too. That's how I got to learn these messages so quickly and really integrate the medicine. And there's a lot of cards that are not that were not in the medicine card deck that aren't animal guides. There are some that are the same, of course. There's just so many to choose from. And that was such a fun, difficult process of being like, wow, what exact animals are we going to have in here? But I feel like when you're getting to know a deck, you've got to spend some time with it. Try out some different spreads, but keep it simple at first and just do a card a day and just get used to the habit of pulling it. Find a couple of your buddies who, ask them if you can pull a card for them. Always ask. And it's okay if someone says no and they're not down. I'm not in the nature of convincing people, but I have had, at markets or at events where I'm having an Oracle lounge, a group of friends comes up and one person is like really skeptical or really afraid or really unsure. And sometimes I like to just see if there's an open door there
Yeah.
and, give it a shot. I was in Joshua Tree one time, which is where we used to live. And there's a military base really close by. And there were these a big group of like beefy military men walking up to get some free animal card readings from Anna.
Awesome.
It was great. And one guy goes and he's like, that's awesome. The next guy goes, amazing. Third guy goes, and there's the last man standing. He's the leader of the SWAT team, turns out. And he's like, I am afraid of this stuff. Like, I don't want to do it. And I'm like, you're afraid of these little cards, but you're on like the SWAT team bomb squad? I was like, what? And then he goes, but what if you tell me that I'm gonna die? And I said, my dear friend, I have one 100% accurate prediction just for you tonight. You are gonna die at some point. Guaranteed. Um,
Yep.
but the animal cards aren't really like, there's not really a death card. Bat is kind of like surrender and letting go, and it looks a little spooky, but uh yeah, it was so funny. He got like the dog card, which is one of the cutest cards. It has like rainbows and like treats falling from the
That's
sky and
hilarious.
yeah, and the koi fish. And it's just so funny to me when people come to something so unknown and they project so much fear onto it. So some people are gonna have those fear projections about cards. Use your own discernment of, is this a time where I can maybe try to open someone's mind a little bit and explore? Is there some trust here that we can build? Or is it just like, I've definitely been sitting at markets and I'm like, let me pull an animal card for you for free. And people are like, no, and like scurry away. And I'm like, cool, not your
Not
thing.
for them.
That's
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. When my husband and I started dating, we were long distance. And I think I'm pretty sure it was Oracle and not Tarot. But I remember one night my friend was over, we were drinking wine, we're pulling cards, and we had my husband on speakerphone because he was an over the night, he worked overnights. He would haul logs in the woods of Maine. And we're like pulling cards and hanging out, and he's just listening to us drink wine and be ridiculous. And
I
he
love
asked
it.
me to pull a card for him. And honestly, it was like one of those moments that I fell a little bit more in love with him because he is very much not the stereotypical, like, pull cards, whatever,
Yeah.
woo-woo energy. And it meant the world to me that he was open to it. And it's funny now because when we're trying to make decisions, he'll be like, Jen, maybe you should pull a card about it. Like, go pull up a card about it. Like, it's become part of his decision making for me, kind of. But I think it can really open interesting conversations. I pull from a Yule deck for an event at the yoga studio that I teach at, and I was curious how people would respond to card pulling and the amount of women that ended up in tears because the messages from the cards were so impactful. So I think if you choose to draw cards for other people, also take it really seriously as to like you have no idea what the impact. When I'm pulling a card at the end of my yoga classes, sometimes the 100% I see the message for myself too. And once in a while I'm like, this one's definitely meant for someone else in the room and not as much me. And the amount of times on those nights that someone will come up to me and say, I felt like you were just speaking to me. And it's so powerful, so incredibly powerful. So thank you for putting your deck out into the world. I think that that's
Yeah.
incredible. Let's move to the florals because this is part of what you do that I know pretty much nothing about. So I am interested to learn from you.
So exciting. Well, I feel like as you open up spiritually, different realms open for people. And so animals, that was always open for me, but it just clicked into place more. The cards helped clarify that connection. And then I like studied it and studied increasing my connection in that area. Some people it's angels or archangels. There's so many plant medicine, all of that. That's another area that we can talk about that I also love. But when it comes to flowers, if you were to look at my gallery just in my phone, oh my gosh, you would see thousands. I'm just obsessed with flowers. To me, they're so beautiful. I remember Eckhart Tolle said this one time. He said something like, flowers are such a great example of enlightenment because they just are. They just are what they are, and they're beautiful, and they're not beautiful for any reason. Yeah, you like pollinators and finding them and stuff,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, flowers don't have like a huge quote purpose
Yeah.
in, you know what I mean? They're just like beautiful and they smell good and they're these bright colors and I just very similar butterfly energy is like
Mm.
that. Like flowers are just these little portals. And so I feel like the flowers also were kind of coming in when I was a kid, and I would like write stories about fairies and go play outside all the time. And so yeah, I remember when I first learned what flower essences are, it was from my spiritual mentor. And she was telling me these stories. She's in her 70s. And so in the 70s, she was also going into corporations and she was actually teaching animal communication to help like company culture, which is like, you can tell why she's my fucking mentor. I'm
But
like,
in the like yes, the
yeah,
70s, there's a big awakening in the 70s.
yes,
But I mean, us talking about going into corporate settings in 2024 to teach yoga or pull oracle cards,
yeah,
still a little taboo, but not as much. A lot of companies have shifted to be more culture focused, thank the universe. But
yes.
in the 70s, for her to be doing something so quote unquote radical, that's really cool.
Yeah. So I remember her telling me, she was like, I made this flower essence. It's called Happy Boss. I would just spray it around, and all of a sudden, everyone's telling me, what did you do? What did you teach in this workshop? Like, I've never seen him so jolly, or like all this crazy stuff. So funny. And I'm not naturally hugely skeptical. I feel like Sagittarius suns, especially, are like naturally more optimistic. We're like a little more into the faith thing. But I was just like, for some reason, I was so skeptical of flower essences. I was like, you just sprayed something and it like changed the culture of the company. So she was telling me about how to make them. And when we moved to Colorado, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like let the flowers speak to me and tell me what to do. I kept, waffling back and forth of like, should I take a course on this? I was just really feeling the pull to flower essences. And by the way, at this point, I had tried a couple from other companies and they had really fucking worked. And I was like, what is in these bottles? Like, how are they so powerful? It's nuts.
Yeah.
And you can take them orally, you can put them in your bath, you can spray them, but it's not aromatherapy. So these aren't, I'll explain the process in a second, but it's not like essential oils. Flower essences are like how LaCroix is naturally essenced, right? So how you end up making them is you put flowers. Yes, you go through a process first. You ask the flowers, can I pick you? When you're foraging like I do, you don't take any more than 30% of what's in that location, to make sure that there's plenty to regrow or for other people to pick. And so yeah, you put flowers in water and then you sit them in the sun for like 5 hours. And that process is called solarization. And what it does is it imprints the water. As we know, water is very easily imprinted on. It imprints the water with the vibration of those flowers. And so what started happening was, just like the animal spirits, these flowers started talking to me. And they were like, okay, pick one of me, pick one of me, put me in the bowl, call it this. And I was like, okay. I was like, I can take orders from some flowers. One of this, one of this, one of this, put it in the bowl, call it this. And so I started making these flower essences and then I started just sharing them with friends. And it was so freaking cool to see people who were also skeptical or who had never heard of them, just experience the magic. They're so powerful. And I feel like no one gets it until you take one. And so, by
Okay.
the way, if you want to try one of mine, I have a deal. You can get 50% off your first bottle, which means it's 11 bucks. I'm like, I love flower essences because they're so affordable and they're so
Yeah.
simple. And so if you have, a friend, a family member, a client who's like, they are like, do not want to meditate or they do not want to go do one of the spiritual practices that takes like, some effort, a
Mhm.
flower essence is amazing because you just take it like a little dropper. It's like a little tincture, little vitamin, and they can help with all kinds of things. So I started making blends. I just started going wandering around in my little mountain town up in the mountains, picking flowers, listening to them. making essences, and then you preserve them. So you preserve them with brandy. So it's kind of like a tincture is the best thing I can compare it to. Um, yeah, and then I just started to see, oh my gosh, these things are really working and they're really
Yeah.
opening so much up for people. They're so affordable. You can't be allergic to them unless by some crazy, unless you're allergic to grapes, I think, because brandy's made from grapes. But
Okay.
it's almost impossible to be allergic to them. People are always like, what's in them? I'm like, well, water and brandy, but
Yeah.
it's the essence water. And similar to homeopathy, you make like a stock bottle and you dilute it down. So the more diluted it is, uh, the better it works and the easier it is to get into your system. So you take
What
four
are some
drops.
of the blends? Tell us about
Yes,
some of the blends.
yeah, the
Yeah.
blends. So the first blend I made was Shine On, and I love supporting people in obviously their soul shining, their confidence, their authentic expression. I think authenticity is a huge personal core value for me and also in my business. And so, yeah, that was the first one that came through, Shine On. Had all different kinds of flowers in it and was just a really lots of bright colors and lots of yellows, and it just feels happy. I feel like Shine On is a really good thing if you're doing something like starting a podcast, or I had a friend like teach a workshop at a festival, or if you have a performance, or if you're just looking to like really bring a little bit more of you forward.
Okay.
Shine On is amazing for that. Um, this one was so funny. I'm so glad they told me this name because I think it's fucking genius. Third Eye Drops. I just thought it was so funny. I was like, that's fucking hilarious. But Third Eye Drops, of course, is for your third eye, but it's really about your, psychic gifts and spiritual gifts. Honing that intuition. And
Mhm.
every time I take third eye drops, and this is confirmed from a couple of other people too, having these like crazy lucid shamanic dreams.
Mhm.
I had a dream where I was like in my high school boyfriend's bedroom. I was like seeing in 4K. This person sexually assaulted me, and have done a lot of healing work around
Yeah.
this person and this experience. But there was a voodoo doll of him in the room, and at first I was like slamming it on the table, and then,
Sounds about right.
and
I mean,
then
yeah.
yeah, for sure. Very understandable.
Yeah.
And then in the dream, I'm like, wait, stop. And I'm like, Anna, you have to forgive. And you have to like offer graciousness to this person so that you can continue to heal. And that was just one of my
That's
crazy
crazy.
ass dreams. Like when I say it was 4K, I felt like I could see dust on the desk, like in my dream. Like it was that level of crystal clear. And I know some people dream really intensely, like sagas. That happens to me sometimes. But this was definitely a standout in terms of how clear and very lucid. So, like I'm controlling myself in the dream and not waking up. I'm still in that space. So yeah, third eye drops is a really fun little.
Yeah.
And then another one I'll mention is Golden Shield. So, Golden Shield is for nervous system regulation. This is one of the biggest things I see, biggest inhibitors to people's growth is they're like trying to do all these things. Maybe they're doing all this work in their business and they just cannot get regulated. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And they're doing all of these things, but they're doing it from a really dysregulated place. And so their aura doesn't feel safe to like keep expanding because they're already dysregulated here. So I made Golden Shield as a simple way to tap into more nervous system regulation and feel more grounded and feel more centered. And that one has been really cool to hear from people who have like anxiety or
Yeah.
panic attacks, like stopping panic attacks in their tracks, really, releasing anxiety and helping people normal situations that would make them like a nervous wreck. They like would just like handle so easily. So yeah, those are just a few of them. And they're so powerful, and check them out. I love getting to, support more people, and also in such an affordable way. Like, I'm
Yeah.
like, if you can't afford like the next like coach or healer, I'm like, a flower essence is an amazing way to continue on your healing journey. For, most flower essences are under $40. All of mine are 22. And that's a whole month in a bottle. So,
Okay. Yeah, like I love essential oils. Like I have one of my favorites is Cheer, which is a blend that I have sitting here
mm,
that I use for anxiety. But like this tiny bottle is really expensive, really
yeah.
expensive. So the barrier to entry can be really high for some, especially in the wellness space. We find that a lot. So I
Mhm.
love the affordability. And I interrupted you before, but how do people take them? What's the way that you suggest?
Yeah, so you can do it all kinds of ways. Like I said, you can spray them. They are not going to smell like anything. They smell a little bit like diluted brandy. So
Makes
this is
sense.
not like you can diffuse them, but they're not going to make it smell like anything, right? You can take them orally, you can put them in a bath. I recommend just keep it super simple. 4 drops just under the tongue 4 times a day. Or if you don't prefer the taste, it has a little bit of that like tincture alcohol-y
Hmm.
taste. You can also just put it in any drink. So 4 drops in your coffee, you won't even taste it. 4 drops in your smoothie or whatever you have. And that's how I recommend it. For some people, I know if you're super sensitive to alcohol, or if you're like on a journey of sobriety, you really will not taste it if you put it in a drink like that, if that's the concern. There are other much larger flower essence companies that make a version with what's called vegetable glycerin. So there are options if it's like a religious thing, if you're like not wanting any alcohol. But
Hmm.
I would say it's pretty much the equivalent of like any tincture, any homeopathic
Yeah.
tincture you would take has like some of that alcohol in it. And it's not like you definitely won't feel anything from it. It's highly, highly diluted in the bottle as well. So yeah, that's a little bit just about the flower essences. Wild Plenty is the
I've never
name.
heard of them before,
You've
which
heard
I
of
think
flower
is so,
essences?
I have not. So I think this is so cool. But also, like, you moved to Colorado 18 months ago. We talked about that. And what a beautiful place to live when it comes to flowers. It's funny. I'm from the Northeast, and people will say, like, if you want to know why they call it colorful Colorado, just wait for fall. And I kind of laugh a little bit because now don't get me wrong, fall in Colorado is beautiful. The aspens are stunning. They definitely show up in their own way. But I miss the maple trees. I miss the bright reds and oranges. And so colorful in the fall to me is Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont.
Yeah.
So what I associate with colorful Colorado is wildflower season.
Mhm.
And a lot of people might not even realize it, but we get the most stunning displays of wildflowers in the mountains here. So you picked definitely a very ideal place to live to start this journey. I know we're getting close to an hour, and I know you and I could talk forever. So I would love to actually do a part two. So maybe we'll do a part two in
Oh,
early
I love that.
2025 if you're interested.
Yeah.
But one big thing that I think you could show particular knowledge and guidance on, you have all of these different facets, and they're all interwoven, they all work together. But how do you balance your time and your intention and
Mhm.
for everything from the masculine schedule to like literally the space it takes in your brain? How do you do it all, Anna? What's it look like for you?
Yeah. Great question. Um, I know how to work with my unique energy. And a lot of that comes from the charts, like we talked about. So, human design manifestors, we have rest cycles and creative cycles. We have creative urges that come through really strongly, and they feel like, I need to make this like now. Like when I'm working on a new song or album, it's like, this is coming through now. It's like pouring out. I need to record it. And we oftentimes have like a concentrated, you know, maybe a month or two of like a ton of work and we stay up later and all this stuff, and then we like take deep rest. So I have some lovely seasons of rest and creativity, and then when something is being birthed for the first time, like the Animal Guides deck or the company Wild Plenty, I put that to the forefront and put everything else on coast as much as I can, cruise control,
Yeah.
you know. Um, I think Jen Sincero says this, or at least I read it in one of her books, that planes, when they're taking off, use 40% of their fuel in
Yeah.
takeoff, which makes sense. It's like a huge fucking metal tube. It's got to get off the ground. So when you're getting something new off the ground, it's okay to shift a lot more of your energy and factor that in. Do not schedule like a full on, program launch when if you're starting a new product line. I'm sure I've done that in the past before and probably regretted it, but I feel like things have their season and their time. Right now, this winter, I'm entering a season of like a lot more music. And I have a lot of my, coaching and courses, I have funnels created. I have some ads running for my product-based businesses. I have a lot of that, not all, but a lot of it on autopilot. I just finished the Soulshine launch, and so Soulshine, once Soulshine is kicked off, I'm like, we're we're cruising, we're at
Yeah.
cruising altitude. Um, so yeah, this winter I plan to take like a lot of time in the studio and writing songs and playing music, and um that's the other we can talk about that another time, but I
Yeah.
think things need their time and place, and to work seasonally is okay. I finally admitted to myself in my podcast, just have seasons, because it happens anyways. I make a bunch of episodes and I feel so lit and pumped, and then I like don't want to make anything for like months, and I'm like,
Yeah.
just have seasons, right? And I think, especially because I used to live in Southern California, it's you have no seasons, really. People are like, sort of, and I'm like, not really. um, Especially nothing like here, where it just,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys got a bunch of snow, but
Oh
we
yeah.
just got like 4 feet of snow. It's like more snow than I've ever seen in my entire life. So in the season, in the way of nature, right? Finding your seasons and finding your moments, giving new projects a little more room when you're getting them off the ground. I'm getting way better at systems. My spiritual people, do not be afraid of systems. Don't be afraid of
Mhm.
paid ads. Don't be afraid of, funnels or things like that. You can have both. You can infuse your funnels with all of your delicious, amazing energy. Um, Paid marketing is not the devil. Like these systems and automations and ManyChat and all of this just help your work get to more people. So I'm embracing those things a lot more than I have in the past. And I think that's really creating more spaciousness, because I do not work more than 20 hours a week.
That's amazing, especially
Yeah.
with all of your different avenues of work. That's incredible that you
Yeah.
should say that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
Thank
I
you.
think I already know the answer to this, but what is the fire that keeps you going when being an entrepreneur gets hard?
Two big fires. Spirit, God, the universe, however you want to put it.
Hmm.
That connection drives everything that I do. I know that I'm here to raise the entire vibration of planet Earth. And so I just do that in as many ways as I can, and remember that that's the whole purpose of all of this. And I do it in ways that I really, really love. So that feels good. But yeah, spirit first, and then definitely my husband. He is so fucking amazing. He is totally my best friend. He's so supportive in very practical ways, like he produces my music. And then also just like he's an entrepreneur as well. And I feel like every day we just feel so lucky that we have each other and that we have this like best friend who gets the entrepreneur life and who gets being a creative person and being multi-passionate. But yeah, I think that's what drives the train over here. And And then like of course it doesn't hurt to have like amazing clients and people to work with and support. That's like, I wouldn't be anywhere without that. But yeah, God and Jake definitely keep this train rolling over here.
That sounds like a song name, by the way. God and Jake. I think you should
God
write a
and
song.
Jake. I
But
love it.
yeah, I mean, having a supportive partner, or it doesn't have to be a romantic partner, but
Yeah.
best friend, but community. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's like entrepreneurship can be really lonely and really difficult, and you have to have people in your corner that understand. And my husband works blue collar. He's never worked entrepreneur. Technically he was self-employed when he was over the road truck driving, but the woo and all of that is very much outside of his comfort zone. But he supports whatever I want to do, anything and whatever.
Mm.
And I underestimated the power of that until he and I started dating. And it's just because there's going to be ups and downs, and you need somebody that helps you keep it going during those downs, for sure.
Yeah, totally. And marriage is such a portal. I feel like if I used to feel like it doesn't matter if we're like legally married or not married, but I really the level of union and
Yeah.
commitment, I think just brings so much grounded energy to it. It's like we are in this for life, ups and downs included. Feels so good. And yeah, to the friendship piece, oh my gosh, like I have the best friends in the world. Truly. I think that's something that people don't talk about enough is how much, really rich and amazing friendships, friendships, friendships can keep you going. Especially in times when things feel confusing or things
Yeah.
feel difficult. So, yeah, get yourself some good, solid relationships. Focus on that. And a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it will fall into place.
Cool. Well, Anna, how can everyone find you? All of these include, we didn't get to even talk about your music really today, but how could people find all of the different avenues of investing in what you do and investing in themselves through what you do?
Yeah, I love investing in myself. Um, so all my stuff is under Anna Cantwell. So my website is annacantwell.com. My Instagram is I am Anna Cantwell. My music is all under Anna Cantwell. So if you look that up, you'll probably find everything. The only things that are kind of separate are animal guides and Wild Plenty. They have their own little homes, but you can also find those through my main website. And I really felt, I have to say this, Jen, I really felt the bestie energy here. I feel
Yeah.
like the word bestie just drops you into this frequency. And so, hey, to all my new besties, definitely reach out and, let me know what you're working on and what you're passionate about. And um, yeah, if there's support that you're looking for, I'm so happy to chat about it. But yeah, thank you for providing the space for people to meet
Yeah.
new business besties. I just love it.
Thank you so much. And yeah, let's plan on doing a part two because I think we can delve deeper. We can, pull more cards together. And yeah. But for everyone listening, if you want to find out more about what I do as a creative strategist, or if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, you can find me on Instagram at Life Jen's Way. My website is jensway.com, and my email address is jen@jensway.com. Two N's on Jen, always. So thank you, Anna, so, so much for taking the time. It has been an honor to hear more about what you do, and I'm so excited to just learn more. So thank you from
Mhm.
the bottom of my heart. And for all of
Thank
you
you.
listening, yeah, for all of you listening, thank you for tuning in, and I will see you next time on your next Business Bestie. Have a wonderful week.